welcome to the stream. Hello, 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 hello. It is so awesome to see you all. Today is a good day. Turn on the jazz. Hello! Hello! Oh my goodness grief. What a fucking fantastic day we're starting.
Stream. Hope your actual birthday was great, and may today be even better. Also, happy anniversary.
So, we're gonna start with the least cool thing first, and then we'll transition into the cooler stuff as we go. And we'll save it. We'll save the best for last. All right, so let's start with this. So we have a statement from this morning, from Creative Assembly. So please hold all of your rotten fruit until the end. But we have a statement here from Creative Assembly. Looks like from the Total War forums. It says, "We're still here, we're listening, and we know you're frustrated. We are too. There's a lot we'd love to tell you guys, but the timing of these things is out of our control. As soon as there's news to share, you will all be the first to know. But to quench any fires, the game is not abandoned. Hyenas is developed, marketed, and managed by a completely different team. It has no bearing on Total War. Again, I know it's been some time, but we'll update you as soon as we get the green light." So, Fake Off, open the stream. Shinkiel Tactical.
Happy Sotek. Thanks for all your entertainment. Keep it up.
Well, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate you being here, and cheers to you as well. So, let's talk about a couple of quick things real quick. First of all, my heart goes out to the community team, because the community team are the people that have to deal with us, and they are also the people that have the absolute least control over what's going on right now, which is, to anyone that isn't in the loop with how these kinds of things tend to work, it's that Creative Assembly, because they're a company that seems to actually care about their, well, not always, but most of the time seem to care about their employees, at least generally speaking. They have an okay track record. They go on vacation during the winter, right? So everybody left, and pretty much everything shut down for the end of December and first little bit of January. And then they came back and they started work again, and we are kind of waiting for the first shoe to drop, which I think most of the community feels pretty confident that it's Chaos Dwarfs as the next major thing that's going to be coming out from at least the Warhammer side of things. However, and that, you know, that's it. That's just the nature of it. Now, Creative Assembly did tell us last year, before the end of the year, they told us that they were expecting to drop the DLC in Q2. It is not Q2 yet. So I would urge everyone to, we have a bot here in chat that tells you when Q2 begins. It's not arrived yet. So we have 1 month, 26 days from the time of this live stream, before Q2 begins. So let's say, probably not the case, but let's say that the Chaos Dwarf DLC, assuming that's what we get, drops on like the first day of Q2. Even with the usual 4 weeks of build-up, we're still 26 days away from them starting the build-up, roughly. So we're still on schedule. I know it sucks. I know that nobody likes what's going on right now. You know, that winter break is brutal. The winter break going into waiting until after the winter break is just, it's brutal. That being said, I do hope and genuinely feel relatively confident that we will get the next patch in February, which is this month. I'm hoping we'll get, what, 2.4, I think, which will hopefully, you know, have a lot of bug fixes and maybe a new wave of regiments for now, just to give us something. But currently, we're still on schedule. I will say that I do not believe that there are devs, to my from anything I've heard, I do not believe that they have actually pulled dev people off of Total War to work on Hyena. Lower the music a little bit. Thank you for letting me know. So I would very much say that here, I'll switch to this while I'm actually like talking. I do not believe they've pulled devs off. However, I do believe 100% that from a marketing standpoint, the Hyena team is like, from what I've heard, they're trying to ramp up Hyena to like, you know, build up announcements and stuff for it. And CA kind of has a history of their marketing teams, because it's all under the CA branch. They aren't allowed to kind of talk over each other. So it's not like we can get, I really don't think that we're going to be able to get Total War Warhammer announcements while Hyena is also doing announcements. I don't know when like the transition is. Like, I don't know when Hyena is going to stop talking and then Total War is going to start talking. But I'm still excited for what's coming. I know a lot of people are frustrated. Personally, I have so much shit to do in Total War still, between like all the SFO stuff and even just like I'm really wanting to finish collecting all of my achievements and everything. I have a lot to do still. Like there's still a pretty obscene amount of content that I need to get through. So personally, I'm okay. I would encourage you all to hopefully find little things to do. There's a lot of really cool mods out these days. If you're looking for stuff to do, I know, like, especially if it is Chaos Dwarves, that's more exciting than probably any mod. But, you know, hang in there, guys. But enough of the bad news. Let's move on to the really exciting stuff. All right. So we're going from this guy. This is a slightly edited image, but we're going from this. Look how stupid this face is. look how just ridiculously dumb this Saurus looks. Look how bad this is. So this was one of the last Lizardmen models we got in Warhammer Fantasy. This was the Lizardmen battle standard bearer. So he was like your army's banner. It's so bad. He looks so horrible. And so this is the actual model, right? This is the full miniature, and you could see I did not exaggerate the face. It's just as obscene in this image as it is in it. And it's a very nice banner, but it's very complicated. Fun fact, because it was originally made out of metal, the banner weighed so much that if you set the model down on the table, he just immediately went like he would just fall constantly, and it was enraging to work with. So you had to put like a bunch of like heavy coins or magnets underneath his base to make him not fall flat on his fucking face the second you let him go. It's the Anya smug face. Yeah, it is. It does look like a really smug Saurus. But like, you know, overall it's an okay miniature, like, but it doesn't look great. It's not horrible. It is just, but the face is horrible. Now, check this out. We're going from this, right, to this. Look at him. Look at this boy. Look how beautiful. Look how fucking gorgeous this lad is. Oh my god, his face looks so good, and his banner's even cooler than the old banner somehow. Here, let's watch the movie. I can't tell you. Wah! Look at him! Oh my god, he looks so thick! Dude, I don't know what this music's from, but this is a banger. Yeah, can I get like a full track of that? Where did W pull that from? All right, so let's see what this article has to say. The spawning pools are bubbling over, the stars are right, and the Slaughter conjuring a new congregation of celestial lizards into being. We've already foretold the arrival of a hefty cohort of cold-blooded warriors led by an arcane amphibian astrologer. Blech. But that's just the beginning. Saurus Astrolith Bearer is a warrior marked by destiny, tasked with hoisting a powerful serpentine standard. More than merely an inspiring icon, this arcane device is inscribed with geometric symbols and powered by the orb of pure celestite that floats at its center. Astrolith bearers hold these emblem engines aloft to channel energies from the heavens, invigorating nearby Seraphon with a flood of celestial magic. Sometimes long dormant glyphs on the devices will lock into new configurations, crackling with resurgent energy. Even the mighty Slan Starmasters don't fully understand why. These wise elders simply take it as a sign that the old ones still exert their all-knowing influence on the mortal realms. And then this goes over what the rules are, which is, they're the exact same. The rules haven't changed. Also, that's a really nice paint job. Like, they're both really nice paint jobs. I don't know which one I actually like more. I think I kind of like this one more because it's a little more contrasting. But here's the rules haven't changed. If you're a Seraphon player, you know what they do. But like, god damn, like this is going to be a perfect battle standard bearer for Lizardmen in Warhammer Fantasy. No, it doesn't shoot lightning. It gives your Seraphon within 12 inches a 6+ ward save, and it gives you +1 to your spell casting within 12 inches, and also gives you +6 inches to the range of all of your spells that are cast within range. So it makes your spells have longer reach, makes it easier to cast spells. It also gives a ward save. But like, look how good that helmet is, and like that jawline. Oh my god, and he's got like the new musculature that makes me weirdly uncomfortable, but like in a good way. And the tail is super nice, and the new club, it's like an actual blade. Like, it's almost, oh god, it looks so good. It looks so good. God, it looks so fucking good. Chorus, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I cannot express how beautiful this model is. Also, this banner is really interesting. I cannot tell if this is, it looks like this is supposed to be a wing. Like, because the gold is definitely a wing outline, and then this kind of gives the impression of like the actual, like this is the membrane of the wing, and then this is like the actual like skeletal structure. This could be a quaddle hint, chat. This could actually be a quaddle hint, because we know that we're supposed to be getting a bunch of, like, they've told us that there's like significantly more miniatures coming, and a quaddle is one of the very few big dinosaurs that they could realistically, oh, this actually says something. Hold up. H-A-B, yeah, that's definitely B. H-A-B. Oh, is this just gibberish? Well, oh well. It was kind of getting close to saying something, but that's all right. It's time. Bum, bum, bum.
Peasant! Peasant!
Oh my god, dude. Tomb Kings. They didn't have to release these on the same day, but they did. And oh my god. Ad time is returned. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I fixed it where y'all can't spam it. I'm pretty sure. If not, I'll have to take another whack at it. All right. Old World Development Diary. Walk like a Nehekaran in the land of the dead. All right, Rob, take us in. Rob, the design manager for Warhammer The Old World, and writers Jonathan and Dan reveal some of the macabre details of the land of the dead and its tyrannical monarch. Oh god, I'm so excited. I have not read this yet. I've not read this yet. All right. Here. Glacier Raven, thanks so much for the 6 months of Prime. I really appreciate it. And Wheelman, thank you again for the 7 months. Let's do this. After the excitement of the previous Old World Development Diary, it's fair to say that the fans of the Old World have been chomping chomping at the bit for more. What have you got for us this time, guys? In our previous article, we looked at the very heart of the old world, the Empire of Man. What we found was a realm both familiar to fans of Warhammer, but also subtly different, not the unified nation you might remember from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Look at this art, man! Look at the Tomb Guard and the regular Skeleton Warrior, like, oh, Kopech's! Oh my god, I miss these swords. I miss these weapons! This time, we're going to take a look at something that will be extremely familiar to longtime fans, the Land of the Dead and the tyrannical rule of Settra the Imperishable, the undying king of Khemri. The supreme monarch of Nehekhara and the other Tomb Kings are going to be major players in the stories we will tell in Warhammer, the old world, and it has been wonderful to come back to them after all these years. They're not technically denizens of the old world, but their invasions play a key part in the narrative at this time during the history of the story, or the setting. We'll look at the maps in more detail in just a little bit. Settra has been a prominent character in Warhammer for a long time, but what interest does he have in the lands of the living and the people of the old world? In life, Settra expanded the borders of Nehekhara until his realm stretched far beyond the horizon, eastwards and westwards. His legions marched across deserts and mountains until they reached distant coasts, and to the north, his domain included the lands now known as the Empire and Bretonnia. In the years that followed his death, lesser monarchs lacked the will and ambition to maintain such a massive kingdom, and over the centuries it shrank to a shadow of its former glory. When Settra awoke from death following the great necromancer's diabolical ritual, his wrath was unmatched. Not only had the Lich Priest failed to return him into an eternally youthful body, but his dynasty had crumbled to insignificance in his absence. Since that day, Settra has been plotting the reconquest of the lands that were once his and the subjugation of the usurper kings, queens, and emperors who dare rule in his stead. No doubt we will see plans of conquest set into motion when the time is right. Can you give us any clues about how the Tomb King armies will wage war upon the denizens of the old world? We've taken a great deal to make the undead work. It was vital that the rules presented balanced game mechanics while evoking the frightening image of rank upon rank of skeleton warriors marching in unison as chariots speed towards the enemy, flanked by monstrous constructs animated by the ancient magic of the mortuary cults. You'll be able to wield the powers of the Lich Priest one more, commanding skeletal hordes to arise from their tombs and march upon the lands of the living. With Settra's attention seemingly fixed upon foreign affairs, will we get much of a chance to explore the land of the dead itself? Our main focus is going to be on the role that Settra and the Tomb Kings Tomb Kings of Khemri played in the old world, but there's nothing stopping us from returning to Nehekhara in the future. There are plenty of instances of Tomb Kings waging war on one another while Settra's attention was elsewhere, and that's before we even get started on raiders and invaders from far-off lands. Many have scoured the blistering deserts of Nehekhara in search of ancient treasures, some hoping to stumble upon wealth beyond imagination, while others sought long-forgotten secrets or legendary artifacts worth far more than gold. Okay. Oh, look at this new map! Look at it! Amazing! My head's in the way. So, we've got over here, we've got WAAAGH, Liberus. You can see the ruins of Lamia up above. Yeah, as much as I love these new maps, I really wish Games Workshop would stop posting them on purpose in really shitty resolution so that you can't fucking read them. Like, I want to be able to zoom in and read all the details, but they keep posting them in like really tiny resolutions so you can't zoom in. So for the love of God, man, just let us read it. Let's see. So we've got WAAAGH, Liberus, looks like Raestra, Kasabar, Qatar, Vagar, Zandri, Khemri, and Numus are the major cities they've notated. We also have quite a few pyramids. Looks like we got the ruins of Lamia up here. We've got the crater of the Walking Dead where my head is. Beautiful map. Beautiful map. Of course, we've got the River Mortis, World's Edge Mountains. Let's see, we got the Straits of Nagash. God, I fucking love this map. We've got the great sandy desert, the plain of Tuskers, the shifting sands. Araby is way over here. We've got the pyramid of Settra down here, along with the Black Pyramid of Nagash down here. Oh my god, this map is so beautiful. Look at all these different obelisks. So the obelisks mark, they kind of mark a lot of the modern day borders Obviously, the land of the Tomb Kings actually goes south of this, but these are a lot of these represent where you would start running into the various undead sentinels. So if you were to cross these obelisks, you would actually enter into the land of the dead proper, which would, you could see that they literally enclose the entirety of the land of the dead, and that's where the borders are. So when you cross these dotted lines, that's when you tend to enter the actual land of the dead itself. And that's where you start to run into these guys, the sepulchral stalkers. Because the sepulchral stalkers hide beneath the sands and wait for people that are not supposed to be there to cross into Khemri, cross into the land of the dead. And when they do so, they emerge from the sand and attack them. They basically act as like border guards. So these are where they hide, is along all these different obelisks that mark where the Tomb Kings have control. But let's actually take some time to analyze what the article says. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to this so that y'all can see, so chat can participate. Also, I'm gonna turn the sound back on. Noratio, thank you so much for the kind birthday messages in 7 months. Hanchi TV, thank you so much for the 13 months. Yotam, happy birthday. How do I feel about people wanting AOS units to be ported over to Total War Warhammer? I've been seeing more and more people in places like Reddit asking for them because they look cool even when they make no sense lore-wise. Why can't Age of Sigmar just be separate from fantasy with its own Total War eventually? So Yota, I will circle back around to that. So remind me once we finish the Tomb Kings conversation, and I will go over that. So there's some huge developments in this article, and I'm gonna make a separate standalone video where I really delve into it after I have time to do some additional research. So that'll probably come out tomorrow or Wednesday. But this is a super big deal. That first of all, Cetra is getting involved. The lighting's too bright. Yeah, it's because there's a white screen looking in my face. So Cetra is getting involved, which is a huge development. And this basically confirms that the old world is going to be having some significantly updated lore and also some borderline changes, but the changes are still loreful. One of the biggest issues with the original old world situation is that one of the kind of original issues was that the Great War Against Chaos was kind of supposed to be like World War One. You know, it was supposed to be kind of like this big world-spanning event where everyone was fighting each other and getting into big tussles and all this crap. And they it never quite had everyone involved, right? You know, it was missing a significant number of races where like the Lizardmen weren't really involved and the Tomb Kings were not really involved, and etc, etc. So like I'm really happy and excited to see that the Tomb Kings are getting off their asses and getting invading, but this is also huge for Cetra, because one of the biggest things that's kind of bad about Warhammer Fantasy lore, not kind of, just flat out is bad about Warhammer Fantasy lore, is that Cetra's entire narrative purpose, like the thing that motivates Cetra, the thing that gets Cetra like up in the morning and allows him to do his thing and exist and all that jazz, is that Cetra is driven purely by reconquering his old empire. So he wants to get out there and start fighting people and, you know, do all that jazz. But he never really did it. Like, Cetra, every time you would read the Tomb King books, it always talked about, like, Cetra would wake up and be like, oh, I'm going to start conquering the world. I'm going to go start fighting everybody. But he never really does. We only have 2 stories, definitive stories, where Cetra actually leaves the land of the dead. And one of them, he invades Sartosa, because he finds out that it was relatively quick after he kind of woke up for the first time. And by relatively quick, I still mean like hundreds of years. But he invades Sartosa along with all the other Tomb Kings, and they go after Sartosa to kind of like demonstrate their prowess, to also take back a lot of treasures the pirates had stolen, and also because they found out Neferata was there. So they go there to like kill a bunch of vampires. But they don't take Sartosa, they just show up, destroy a bunch of shit, grab their stuff, and leave. And then the other time we see Cetra leave is that during the War of Blood and Snow, where Cetra gets killed by a Norscan warlord who immediately dies. But that Norscan warlord's like second in command takes Cetra's crown and what's left of his army and basically runs away back to Norsca. And that leads Cetra to invade Norsca because he was super pissed off, and he basically marches from one end of Norsca to the other side, just mass murdering everybody until he gets every single coin back that they took from him and his crown. And he's successful, because of course he is, because he's Cetra. So this is so nice to see Cetra the Imperishable is actually going to be moving north and invading like the Empire proper. Like he's going to be probably, I imagine the war fleets of Cetra are going to be setting out from the port of Xandri, or the ports of Xandri. And I cannot wait to see what exactly he's up to. I heavily suspect, I kind of think they might take a page out of the Nemesis Crown storyline, which for anyone not aware of the Nemesis Crown, I actually have a video coming out on it later, hopefully this week. But I actually picked out the original supplement recently. But I'll actually read you the Tomb King portion, because I actually think this may be what Cetra's going to do in Warhammer the Old World. So it says, the Tomb Kings. Word of the war reaches the lands of the dead, and Cetra, Lord of Khemri, sees opportunity within the madness. Cetra's spies, living and dead, are legion. Their reports now speak of an opportunity for anarchy has been loosed upon the old world. An insanity of sorts seems to have gripped the mightiest living rulers, who even now are at each other's throats. Cetra's agents cannot determine why this should be so, but the Tomb King does not care for the motivations of the living, provided they can be turned to his advantage. Over the centuries, adventurers from distant lands have stolen much from Cetra's domain. Powerful artifacts thousands of years old languish in wizards' vaults or as curios for the nobility of the Empire in Bretonnia. Even dormant servitors and counselors have been taken, their undying bodies seized while sealed in their golden caskets. These trespasses have long weighed on Cetra's mind. Now the time for revenge is nigh. At Cetra's command, the Lich Priests have mustered a mighty army. Tomb Kings and Princes have arisen from their interment, their legions of skeleton warriors and tomb guard, again imbued with ghastly life. Bone giants and Ushabtis have stirred from their chambers, or their slumbers, and the rituals of war were performed. So it was that the dreaded black-holed fleets of Khemri slipped their moorings. The Bretonian city of Brionne was the first city to feel Cetra's wrath, its defenders the victims of the Tomb King's terrible efficiency. The coastal towns of Liangui, Bastarne, and Giroderi swiftly suffered similar fates. In each case, the loss of life and damage was mercifully slight, for the attackers were single-minded in their goals. They made no attempt to raise the towns or slaughter the inhabitants, and returned to their ships once their prize had been reclaimed. A week later, the scope of the attacks widened and began raids on the Empire. Cetra himself has landed to the east of Marienburg and begun the long march to Altdorf, home of the colleges of magic and many hundreds of stolen items. Granted, I think in the old world, Cetra's going to be a little more hellbent on conquest as opposed to simply recapturing stolen artifacts. I do believe he is going to run off and start conquering some of the border princes and begin like actually expanding northward.
Yotam9 shared. X100. The one thing I am worried about with Cetra invading the Empire/Bretonnia is that it is inevitable that he will lose. Disappointed face.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, because I think they're going to take a significant idea from that Nemesis Crown campaign and have it that Cetra's ultimate goal, on top of gaining back some territory, is that he is going to be trying to reclaim a lot of artifacts. So I think we're actually going to see, so the Empire is going to be far more focused, in the end of the Old Worlds campaign, is going to be far more focused on defending itself from the tides of chaos and uniting with the other forces of order. I think what Cetra is going to do is I think Cetra is going to leave through the ocean, and he's going to go after a lot of the coastal places. So I think he's going to attack Sartosa. I think he's probably going to attack Talea and Astalia, but I think his main attacks are going to be against Bretonia and the Empire. And what he's going to be doing is reclaiming a lot of artifacts. So I think he's going to be waging crazy amounts of war against the Bretonians and the Empire, because this is after the Great Crusade. So the Crusades have already happened, and are like long since past. So a lot of the stuff from Nehekhara has already been stolen by the Bretonian Knights and the Knightly Orders of the Empire, which is super pissed off the Tomb Kings, and is a major reason why the Tomb Kings are attacking these nations, is probably to take their shit back from these, you know, these living usurpers. I do hope we also are going to be seeing Cetra going to like unleash his fury on the Badlands. So hopefully he's going to be going north to wage war against like the Savage Orc tribes and the Greenskins of those lands. But some really exciting stuff is, did y'all catch the end of the article? That like major line right at the end is that our main focus is going to be on the role of Cetra and the Tomb Kings of Khemri played in the Old World, but there's nothing stopping us returning to Nehekhara in the future. That they are literally saying, you know what? If the Old World proves popular enough and people really love it, there's nothing stopping us from continuing the narrative. There's nothing stopping us from not just doing Chaos or the Great War and doing other stuff to keep expanding the setting and doing more. So like we know we're like at the start of the Old World, we're not going to see Khalida. We're not going to see like probably any of the other major tomb cities. It sounds like it's going like if you play Tomb Kings, you're going to be playing Khemri. That's it. Like that's the only Tomb King faction is going to be Khemri at the start. But if the game proves really successful and a lot of people are playing and they want to keep expanding, then they will look to adding more of the tomb cities. So you may be wondering real quick, like, okay, well, who does that entail as far as like who are going to be playable characters? At the very minimum, we're going to be looking at so we know Cetra the Imperishable is going to be the big bad. Cetra the Perishable is going to be a huge major character. However, he's not the only one. Other characters who are not associated with any one tomb city, or they are associated with Khemri, we have Nakaf. So Nakaf is Cetra's herald and was a special character from 8th edition. Nakaf will absolutely be making will be showing up and making an appearance, because I mean he's literally Cetra's right-hand man. Nakaf is going to be there. Archon the Black should be around. Archon the Black would absolutely be taking advantage of what's going on. There's a chance he might not be involved because obviously he's not very fond of Cetra. Him and Cetra are kind of like ultimate enemies. But there should be... I would not be shocked at all to see Archon the Black make an appearance. Especially because Archon the Black kind of functions as more of a mercenary force within Tomb King kind of culture. So it's fully possible that he has aligned himself with Cetra to potentially show up in the Old World and try and take advantage of what's going on to reclaim like some artifacts of Nagash, to empower himself. On top of that, you have Prince Apophis. So Prince Apophis, the Scarab Prince, he is not associated with any of the tomb cities. So there is a very, very, very high chance that Prince Apophis will be making an appearance and will be running around assassinating people, because the only thing Prince Apophis cares about is that he shows up and assassinates someone who he thinks their soul will replace his. And he is really, really infamous for attacking like Bretonians and Empire generals in particular. What is the difference between Nehekhara and Khemri? Nehekara is like the entire nation. It's the entirety of the land of the dead. Khemri is just a single city. It is the most important city. It's like the capital of Nehekara, but it's only a singular tomb city, and it's Cetra's tomb city. It is where the King of Kings resides. So it's the most powerful of the tomb city. The other characters who are very likely to show up, I don't remember if Ramhotep is from Khemri. I don't think he is. Check. But Grand Hierophant Khatep, there's a very high chance we'll see Grand Hierophant Khatep, because he's exiled, so he is not allowed to return to Nehekara. He has to be literally anywhere else. But he is Khemri aligned, because he's known. His other title is the Lich Lord of Khemri. So Grand Hierophant Khatep will almost assuredly be there. The Herald Nakaf will be there. Cetra will be there, and Archon the Black. Ramhotep might be around, but Ramhotep is associated with Qatar. He is the Necrotect of Qatar, and that's like the city he's from. But that being said, he has like a huge hate boner for the Empire, so there's a chance he'll show up. It's hard to say. Yeah. Because I mean, Ramhotep the Visionary does invade. He does invade the Empire in 2141, which is about 100-ish. It's a little over a century before the setting that we're going to be starting in takes place. So Ramhotep the Visionary, he might show up. He might not. It's hard to say. He actually destroys Ubersreich and Grunberg before about 100 years before the Great War Against Chaos, because Ubersreich is just constantly getting blown up. Poor Ubersreich, man. It is the worst. It is literally one of the worst cities to live in the Empire, because it gets destroyed so many goddamn times. What about the Dwarf Tomb King? I mean, the Dwarf Tomb King only shows up in the novel. I don't think he ever is really confirmed to exist outside of the novel, or at least he's not really talked about much. But he's from Liberus. Will DJ Khatep get an actual model? If he shows up, I would assume he would. How come they retconned Archon to have a white skeleton, not a burnt black one? That was just a decision by Creative Assembly. I don't know why they decided that, but they've made a couple errors when they design characters. Like they do a lot. So there have been a couple of design problems, like the decisions for how they wrote Throg's dialogue were not great, because it made it really seem like they've never read any of the stuff that Throg shows up in, which granted is not a ton, but like Throg is supposed to be a lot more well-spoken than that. Like, he actually is fairly intelligent, has like a very sophisticated way of speaking. And then there's also been like some weird design choices, like Archon's skeleton not being burnt is very bizarre. The croc scores look like absolute trash. Brandon hit the thing that shows what proper croc scores look like. Stuff like that. But like, it's not the end of the world by any means, but there have been a couple of weird design decisions. Zoner123, Grumpito the Ancestor, and WAAAGH. Good to see you all. Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Bloodborne? Dude, Bloodborne croc scores would be terrifying. Like, considering how fucking like Bloodborne already is, could you imagine Lizardmen in Bloodborne? Like, how much scarier they would be? Oh my god, that'd be terrifying. Nakai is supposed to be albino. Yeah, I mean, he's vaguely lightish colored, but I would definitely argue that he should be more pale. That being said, I can understand why they didn't necessarily go that route, because Nakai... Good Coffee Joey, thank you so much for the 24... 2 years, Coffee Joey. 2 years. Holy shit, thank you for the support. Oh, Brandon, when you said Nakai is a strong gray, I misread that. Thought you said Nakai is a strong gay. It was like, I mean, you know what? You live your best life. That works for you. That works for you. Why'd they make Throg fat? To be fair, that's like a very accurate representation of troll physique. I don't mind that. All right. Lore story time. Archon the Black. And it's Nico. Is there anything? If there's anything specific you want to know about Archon, feel free to just ask and I'll answer those. Well, Archon the Black, the Lich King. Archon the Black was the first and most loyal of the evil Nagash's followers. Archon helped lead the coup which brought the Arch Necromancer to power, and he was the first, after his lord, to imbibe the elixir of life. Archon was the most adept of Nagash's pupils in the study of dark sorcery, and he quickly rose to become the Necromancer's trusted vizier and principal lieutenant. Archon led many armies against Nagash's enemies, and was never defeated in open combat. In the end, however, the sheer numbers of the Priest King's soldiers forced Nagash to retreat. It was Archon who led the suicidal counterattack that gave Nagash the opportunity to escape. For over an hour, Archon held back the army of the Seven Kings through feats of martial prowess and powerful sorcery. Archon finally fell, not to a hero's sword, but to a single spear hurled by an unknown soldier. Archon stared in horror at the shaft protruding from his chest, knowing that it had pierced his heart. With his dying breath, he threatened that a terrible curse would befall any who touched his corpse, and with that, he slumped to the ground. Within seconds, dark flames had consumed Archon's flesh, leaving behind only a blackened skeleton. Whilst the rest of Nagash's followers were beheaded and burnt, none dared desecrating Archon's remains, and so they covered them under a cairn of stones instead. Nagash did not forget his most able lieutenant, and when he returned to wreak vengeance on Nehekhara, Archon was reborn as the Lich King, the first of Nagash's 9 Dark Lords. These fell beings were the foremost of Nagash's captains, and they brought despair and destruction to his foes. Though Nagash was eventually slain, his loyal servant Archon remained. For countless generations, Archon the Black vented his anger on the lands of the living, butchering the inhabitants of the world from the kingdoms of Araby in the west to the fledgling empire in the north. However, Archon the Black retained his master's unquenchable thirst for dominion over the realms of Nehekhara above all else, and he finally returned to the land of the dead. From his cursed Black Tower, Archon has carved out a powerful realm. The other Tomb Kings tolerate Archon, for he is a powerful ally to those who can afford his price. Of all the rulers in the land of the dead, Archon's greatest rival remains Settra the Imperishable. The two have fought against each other a dozen times, and though Archon's army cannot rival the might of Settra's, neither can the King of Nehekhara overcome the Lich King's dark sorcery. Their battles thus end in a stalemate, and only when Archon bows his head and utters false promises of fealty does Settra return satisfied to Khemri. Whilst Archon feigns servitude, he is secretly plotting for a way to hasten the inevitable return of Nagash. To this end, he has scoured the globe in search of the great necromancer's enchanted items, for a fraction of his evil will still resides within each. Archon the Black wields his master's own magical staff, plucked from the clutches of the vampire Mandragon, and with it he channels the winds of magic to his whim. However, Archon's most prized possession is the Liber Mortis, one of the 9 books of Nagash that holds the secret to necromantic magic. One day, Archon the Black will succeed in resurrecting his Dark Master, and on that day the Tomb Kings shall be destroyed, and the world shall drown in death. Darethol, thank you so much for the happy birthday. And Jimmy Pietruska, thank you so much for coming to the stream. Good to see you. It's Nico. Is there anything specific you wanted to hear about Archon, by the way?
Use me.
Maybe about his artifacts? Yeah, sure. Also, kind of a fun, sad fact is that when Archon was defeated the first time, or when he came back to life as Nagash's, you know, Lich King and the first of the Mortarks, he and after Nagash died, Archon nearly took over Khemri, so he nearly became like the biggest, baddest character in charge of Nehekhara, which is why Katep was finally like, well, fuck, okay, we gotta go wake up Cetra so Cetra can kick this guy's ass. So Cetra wakes up, he beats up Archon, Archon flees, and that incident initiated what's known as the Wars of the Dead, and was a nightmare scenario for poor Araby, because since Archon couldn't have Nehekhara, he decided to go pick on poor little here it is. Archon the Black, repelled from Khemri by Cetra, attacks the city of Bel Aliad, beginning what the Arabian chroniclers will later call the Wars of Death. For the next 1,000 years, Archon raids the lands of the living across the world, just to be a jerk. Also, here's a lore blurb on the Black Tower of Archon, for those curious what the tower's like. The Black Tower of Archon. This fell tower was built by Nagash's trusted vizier at the height of the Reign of Terror. Isolated deep in the cracked land, the Black Tower offered Archon a refuge where he could develop his mastery of dark magic. Constructed in union with the accursed Black Pyramid, Archon's infernal spire and the lands that surround it are saturated with magic, and many vile things dwell in its shadow. Following Nagash's defeat by the army of the Seven Kings and Archon's mortal death, the Black Tower was abandoned, and for centuries it remained a haunted place shunned by all. Only evil spirits stirred inside its catacombs. Upon Archon's return to Nehekhara, he raised an army of skeletons to guard against his Tomb King rivals and carved out a realm of his own. Archon rules from the Black Tower, maintaining an uneasy truce with the monarchs of Nehekhara through the power of dark sorcery. Whatever his true motives, Archon the Black is a powerful ally for those who can afford the price. And then for his items, you have the Tomb Blade of Archon. The flesh of those slain by this dread blade burns away, leaving behind only a charred skeleton, enslaved for all eternity to Archon's dark will. Then the Staff of Nagash. This staff was created by the arch necromancer Nagash to harness the reservoirs of dark magic stored within the accursed Black Pyramid. And then the Liber Mortis. This accursed tome is one of the 9 fabled books of Nagash, the most potent source of necromantic magic in the world. What about Archon's and Neferata's interactions? Monster Girls 54, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. And thank you for the happy birthday. The TLDR of that is that Archon the Black and Neferata were lovers. And were very close to one another during Neferata's mortal life. Which is a little... it's very heavily... I have to go back and read. It's been forever since I've dabbled around with that lore, because it's very messy, but I believe they met when both of them were alive, and they did have some stuff going on when two of them were alive, and then Archon dies, and I can't remember if Archon returns to Neferata after he becomes a lich, or if he just stays dead. But Archon apparently does play a role in Neferata's creation of the elixir of life, her flawed version, which turns her into a vampire. Personally, I don't like that story very much. I'm fine with the two of them having been lovers in life. That I'm totally cool with. I do not like the version of the story where Archon plays like a major role in Neferata creating the elixir, because I think it kind of robs Neferata of a lot of her agency as a character, and like a lot of her major focus being that she's the one who kind of like figured it out and made a lot of like major steps. I don't think Archon really adds anything to her story, as far as like after he died, if that makes sense. Tell me about the rogue lizardmen on the Dragon Isles. How'd they get like that? What are they even like? Why don't others do something about it? And do they even know they're that way? Please, thanks. So in answer to your question, Ame, the Dragon Isles they were originally one of the kind of like major parts of the Lizardman Empire. When the continents all got separate, because the continents used to be one big supercontinent, and then they got separated into the way they vaguely are now. And so the Lizardmen were mostly dominant on Lustria, the Southlands, the Dragon Isles, and it's implied that there were some notable Lizardman forces in Koresh, but they're all dead now. And the Naga seem to have taken over, which is why the lost city of the old ones. But the Dragon Isles Lizardmen, the main thing that happened to them is there are no Slann. All of the Slann that were in the Dragon Isles died during the Great War.
Joins the Red Host. Cursed Sotek spawn.
And since all of them died during the Great War against Chaos, the Lizardmen there were left without any guidance. And they didn't have any of the Slann there to like help them like follow the teachings of the old ones and like keep them under control and like to resist like their natural, more like animalistic like impulses or desires. And so the Lizardmen in the Dragon Isles over the thousands and thousands of years that came since started to slowly but surely degrade until they basically just became kind of bestial creatures. So they lost their purpose within the Great Plan, and they just devolved into savage creature monster things. So like they still kind of look like Lizardmen, but they no longer had the ability. It's seems to be implied they no longer like have the ability to speak or build or construct or anything like that. So if you went there, you would basically just encounter a bunch of Lizardmen-like creatures. Like they would kind of look like Lizardmen, but they would be more feral and bestial. But other than that, they would still like you know, so you're basically just dealing with like bipedal terrifying monster creatures. Could they fall to chaos? I mean, they could be mutated by it. All Lizardmen can be mutated by chaos, but they cannot be spiritually corrupted by chaos. And the Lizardmen, or the feral Lizardmen, I guess you could say, of the Dragon Isles would be the exact same. They would not be vulnerable to chaos from like a corruption, a like mental or physical corruption standpoint. They would only be vulnerable from a physical standpoint. But like Lizardmen can get mutations. They're pretty resistant to it, but like if they get blasted in the face by like Zinch fire, there's a reasonable chance that like, you know, tentacles will sprout out and stuff as they die horribly. Why doesn't a Slann go over there and fix that? Because it's not part of the Great Plan. It's not a priority. And the Slann are very, 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 very slow when it comes to like actually doing stuff and getting things done. They tend to think and contemplate about the right course of action for, you know, hundreds of years, or at the very least decades, but usually hundreds of years. And eventually they'll be like, yes, we have decided on the right course of action, and we shall now take a course of action. But until that time comes, they really don't tend to... Immediate action is not their strong suit, which is what like Tehinuin found very frustrating about the Slann. Like Tehinuin kind of sort of rebelled against the Slann in that he took action without their consent, and like went out on his own and got involved. And he's really not supposed to have done that, but he did it because he wasn't willing to wait for them and just allowing like Lustria to fall before the Skaven. Because the Slann were, you know, they don't really think about time the way we do. You know, they are far more concerned with like really going over all the sacred plaques and prophecies and like looking at the stars and figuring out like what the astrological signs say and like kind of trying to really suss out what the old ones would have wanted them to do, instead of just being like, oh, well, fuck, we need to, like, get our hands dirty and get in here and start fighting. But I will say, the problem is further made in that the Slann aren't really sure what's going on in the Dragon Isles. Like, the Slann, because the geomantic web has so heavily degraded over the last thousands of years, the Slann have completely lost contact with that side of the world. Like, the Slann of Lustria cannot even contact the Slann of the Southlands anymore. Like, the Slann have no idea what's going on in the Southlands, because the geomantic web has degraded to the point that they can no longer telepathically communicate with them. So they're not really sure what's going on over there. And the Dragon Isles don't have any Slann, and there also doesn't seem to be a very easy way for them to get over there. Theoretically, the Slann could, like, maybe open a portal that would allow them to, like, send an army through or something, but how easy or difficult that spell is to do is not really clear. And it could very well be that, like, oh no, like, that spell's impossible to perform unless there are certain circumstances being met. So it could just be they're not able to get to the Dragon Isles and they don't know what's going on there. So they don't know that they need to go there. Is it still like that in Age of Sigmar? No, the Slann in Age of Sigmar are very, very, very active and are constantly running around punching people in the face. Is it just possible that it's too late for them to do anything? Debatably, that is also true. Wizardly weapons, +6 armor-piercing damage and power. Oh, it gives power recharge. Well, that's insanely strong. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. In this mod, orc boys have anti-infantry. Really? Giant spiders have armor piercing? That's weird. Forest goblins having armor piercing melee is a very weird choice. I'm just gonna say that. They're not that strong. They are not supposed to be that strong. Wonder if we have spear orcs or not. What mod am I using? This is the new, well, relatively new, SFO mod. So this is the Steel Faith overhaul mod. It's called the Storm of Chaos is the mod, SFO Storm of Chaos. It's kind of like their big one. They seem very proud of it, which is why I've been playing it, because I'm really wanting to figure it out. How are Slans made in AOS? There are no new Slann. All of the Slann in Age of Sigmar are all the exact same Slann from Warhammer Fantasy. There are no new Slann. You usually have turkey sandwiches for lunch, like a hot sub type thing. Hey Sotek, if Cetra had territory so far north, why are there not Nehekarn ruins in Bretonnia the Empire? Ah, but that's the rube. There are Nehekarn ruins in Bretonnia and the Empire. They just don't get talked about a lot, but they do exist, and they are talked about in the lore. We can discuss that when I get back. So thank you all for joining me for this. If you're not going to be coming back after the lunch break, I hope you have a wonderful week and day and all that jazz. Please take care of yourself and be safe. And I will catch you guys in just a bit.